Hello everyone and welcome to PreSonus Live. We have a special episode today. We're sponsored today by Zounds and Isotope, and what we're talking about is using plugins live. Now I'm going to walk you through a little bit of that, and we had Nothing More in recently, and Johnny walked us through their setup and how they use plugins live. But before we get to that, a couple things I want to tell you. We have a couple of prizes we've been giving away at the end of this episode, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll give you more details on that as we come back. But right now, we had, like I said, Nothing More was in the studio, and they did an acoustic version of Jenny, which is available on iTunes for download as we speak. But without further ado, this is Nothing More and an acoustic version of Jenny right here at PreSonus Studios.
Sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands. Left you weak, left you hungry. When the supply is still demand, you're beginning to drag the ones you love down. Will this phase ever end? 1,000 arms to hold you, but you won't reach for any hands. 'Cause I don't feel like I'm getting through to you. Let me paint this clear. Life is short, my dear. See your mother here, her last painful year. I wish you only knew she stuck around for you. She stuck around for you. Maybe you should just fall and leave the world and lose it all. And if that's what you need to finally see, she loved you through it all. Bringing the pills or the dollar bill, medicating will never heal. Relapse, rehab, repeat, always thinking about the me. Self-destruct, spiral down till your want becomes your need. Please get up like I know you can. Forever love the fall, 'cause I don't feel like I'm getting through to you. Let me paint this clear. Life is short, my dear. See your mother here, her last painful year. I wish you only knew she stuck around for you. She stuck around for you. Maybe you should just fall and leave the world and lose it all. And if that's what you need to finally see, she loved you through it all. I can't stand to see you down, strung out, off the wagon and unwound. Steady, steady, oh God, Jenny, Jenny, I can't bear to hear the sound of your body. You're in the ground. Maybe you should just fall and leave the world and lose it all. And if that's what you need to finally see, she loved you through it all. You should just fall and lose it all. You should just fall and lose it all, and lose it all, and lose it all.
Awesome. So check this out. Before we go to Johnny and we have him discuss how they set up using their plugins live with their rack mixer, I wanted to back up a little bit and show you how to use the console mixer or rack mixer, same thing, to use Studio One and use plugins live. Studio One makes it really easy because we have templates and we have the drag and drop capability. So in the Studio One start page, you can go to create a new song, and a dialog is going to open up. And if you'll notice right here, check this, I'll zoom in. You have styles, interfaces, and users. So the styles is different styles of music. Interfaces is just what it says. It's the PreSonus interfaces that you may hook up to Studio One. And then user actually is user presets that you create. So it's templates that you create inside of Studio One. So what I'm going to do is scroll down here to StudioLive 3242 AI, and I can click on this guy and check this out. Once I click OK, it creates a session for me that has 32 tracks plus the main mix. And if you'll notice, I'm going to make this a little bigger, make it a little bit bigger in the right area here, and you'll see my voice is coming in. It's already so my voice is actually coming in to this mixer here in the studio, and it's going into that track because I'm plugged into channel 25. It's coming into track 25. So I didn't have to configure that. That's one-to-one. It's ready to rock and roll for me. So that's happening there. And let's say I want to put a compressor on my voice. All I need to do is go to the browser, go to Effects, and let's say here's a compressor. Boom. Just drag it and drop it right to the channel here. And then actually I have everything I need. I've got a multi-band compressor, rocking and rolling just like that. All I had to do was drag it to either the track in the window, or check this out, I'll close this. I'm going to say I want maybe an EQ or something. I can take the EQ and I can just drag it right down here and then insert it. It does exactly the same thing. You can do it there on the insert of the channel, or boom, you can drag it onto the track inside the arrange window itself. So that's very simple and straightforward. Now I already have some things set up, so let's just quickly move over to that session. And it's go to our start page, and we will open up that demo session. And what I've done to kind of streamline it, make it look a little more straightforward, is I've cut it down to just one track so we can just focus and not have all the other stuff in the background. So if you'll notice, I have this one track. You can see my voice coming in, and you'll notice I have Trash, I have some EQ from iZotope, and I have one of the channel strip plugins from PreSonus. And I also have some time-based effects. So let me just kind of roll through them, let you hear what that's going to happen, what it sounds like, and I'll turn this on. So in order for me to hear the effect, and in order for it to come out live, you actually have to hit the digital return. You have to do that because if you don't, you're just listening to the input of the mic, the actual thing that's plugged into your console, or the microphone that's plugged into your rack mixer. So I want to hear what's coming back from Studio One. So in order to do that, I engage the FireWire button on the mixer or NUC surface on the rack mixer. And when I turn something on, you'll actually hear an audible difference. So I'm going to make a really crazy change real quick. We'll put some distortion on. So right now you hear distortion on my voice with some other effects that are in this Trash plugin. Zoom out. Okay, so that was really not very subtle, but it would be a cool effect that you could use live, like to intro a song or something like that. In addition, I could have EQ, so you can see this EQ right here. I have, and if you notice in this EQ, I already have some stuff happening, and the reason I have it this way is because I was having some feedback issues with my lav, and I just used the processing here in the box. So I'm actually using plugins live. So I had this little issue right here around 2K and change, 2.5K, and I use that EQ for that. In addition, I've also, so I had distortion, I have ozone, EQ, and then I have this plugin here, which is a compressor and an EQ. So you'll hear a little bit of a difference there. And if you notice, you can actually see I have gain reduction to the meter, and you can see it compressing my voice as I'm talking right now. So we're actually compressing the lab that's on myself. So I've inserted the iZotope Trash plugin and Ozone plus PreSonus's VT1 compressor. So those are inserted, they actually live across this channel. So when I'm talking in, they're affected and it comes right back into the channel on my console. Typically with time-based effects like reverbs and delays, we want to put them on a send. Now, what's the difference between an insert and a send? Well, the insert, you actually drop the effect you want on your voice, and your voice is going to be completely processed by that. The send actually takes a copy of your voice, sends it to a return channel or track, processes it, and then you can like mix that in subtly, or you can push it up really loud. In addition, when you use a send, you could take that copy, send it to a reverb or delay, and add more EQ or a compressor or something like that. So it gives you a way to blend the two styles of effects together simultaneously. Let me show you how to do it. I'm going to create a new track here just so we can start from scratch. And here's the inserts right up top, and the sends are right down here on the bottom. So I'll go in my browser and let's say I want to put a reverb on here. So I just take it, drag it to the send, and bam, I've got a reverb. Check this out. It's inserted on this return. Now, what if I wanted to delay? Well, there's a couple of things I can do. I could take the delay and then drag it right onto that same return channel, just like that. Or I could take the delay, drag it to a send, and it will create another return. So I could mix in the reverb a certain level, mix in the delay a certain level. So I have more control. When I use the send effects, I have independent controls for how much reverb or how much delay or how much chorus or whatever I inserted on that return, how much I want that to come back with the signal that's coming from my voice. So let's listen to, actually let's just push this down and we'll listen to what the reverb and delay that I have inserted across this channel sound like. So I have the isotope EQ and the compressor, the PreSonus VT1 on. I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to turn the open air on, which is the reverb, and I'll unmute it, and you hear a lot of reverb. So check this out. You have the send. If I turn the send down, you have a little reverb. If I push the send up, you have a lot of reverb. Same thing for the return. If I pull the return down, no reverb. If I push it up, I got a little bit. Push it up a little bit more, I got a little bit more. So you see how that works. You can actually have a fader to control how much return you have on your voice. Now, like I showed you before with the other two tracks, you could have independent returns for your reverb and delay, or you could stack them on a single return, which is what I've done. Check this out. So you hear my reverb, and I've got a really interesting delay. So you can hear some delays happening at different pitches. So the sky is the limit. When you hook up your computer to your StudioLive console or your RM, I mean, you're just opening up this great bag of tools that you have at your disposal. And with Studio One, you can have your third-party plugins as well. So you can have your isotope plugins, and you can use those. You can use the native plugins, and you can just really get creative with it. Now, let's take a little closer look at what Johnny and the guys in Nothing More are doing with their rack mixer.
My name's Johnny Hawkins. I'm in the band Nothing More, and I'm in the PreSonus headquarters right now. We're going to talk about the ARM32 and other gear that we use live and acoustically. So our radio rig is a much more compact version of what we do with our full band live show. It just has the ARM32 and our headphone amp, and that's all we need to monitor and each have our own mix. The principles are basically the same, which is that we send our guitar and our bass and our vocals all into the ARM32, and it goes from there into the computer, and we process effects like delays and distortions that turn on and off. That's all happening in Ableton Live, and it gets processed and comes back out of the computer and comes back out through the ARM32 into our headphone amp for acoustic. Here we monitor with the headphones, live we monitor with in-ears wirelessly, but it's the exact same principle of how it's all wired. Once we're in the computer and it's going through Universal Control, we pop into Ableton. And in Ableton, that's really where all the crazy effects are happening. You know, delays, distortions, timed effects. A few of the plugins that we use are made by iZotope. Basically, we use Alloy 2 as kind of a souped up channel strip. Rather than having a ton of different plugins all spread out, it's basically a one-stop shop where I can do a lot of compression work, a limiter on the end, I can de-ess my vocals. We also use the Nectar plugin on the vocal for the same reasons that Alloy is, a lot of compression, EQ, limiting, de-essing. We also use it for a lot more specialty effects. For example, Nectar actually had a harmonizer in it which sounds a little bit different than the typical vocoder and was the sound we were looking for. It was our go-to plugin and it worked live with zero latency, so that was perfect. That's what we needed. Basically, RM32 into Universal Control into Ableton Live, back into Universal Control, RM32, and then into our ears. So the way it goes in is the exact way that it comes out in reverse order.
So I'd just like to take a minute and say what an amazing version of Jenny that was. And I want to remind everyone that that recording is available for download right now on iTunes. So nothing more Jenny, check it out, download it, get out there and support those guys like they support PreSonus. I'd like to re-mention that this PreSonus Live is sponsored by Zounds, and it also is sponsored by iZotope. So Zounds, iZotope, and PreSonus have put these prize packages together, and we're getting pretty close to announcing our winners. We have 3 second prize winners, I believe, and a single grand prize winner. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about the prizes, then I'm going to take some questions, and then we'll make the announcements. I know everyone out there is like, dude, just make the announcement, but let me tell you about the prizes. So I have a list. The 3 second prizes are Studio One Professional 3, and I don't actually have that in front of me. That's awesome. It's just, oh, here it is. I'm sorry. And iZotope Ozone 7. Yes, iZotope Ozone 7, which is pretty fantastic. Both of those, amazing plug-in and an amazing DAW that you can use that plug-in in and just rock and roll. Now, we're going to be giving away that package to 3 people who are part of this webcast. And then the grand prize is pretty dynamite as well. It's a CS18 control surface, an RM16, Studio One 3 Professional, iZotope Ozone 7, iZotope Alloy 2, and a $100 Zounds gift certificate. So that guy's making out like a bandit, or gal is making out like a bandit for sure. So really quickly before we announce our winners, I'd like to take some questions that our lovely Ryan has sent to me over the interwebs. First thing is, I guess the question is using plugins live. Can you do this with older mixers? I think older live mixers, older than the AI series. So with what we call the classic series, and you absolutely can do that. We've been doing this since we first started making mixers. The function works exactly the same. You use a DAW like Studio One, or like Johnny and the guys use Ableton. You could use pretty much any DAW, and then you can use your iZotope plugins, or you can use your native plugins, and then you can just insert it on the channel like we talked about and hit your Firewire button and bring it right back into the channel, or you can do a send return scenario. So yes, you can use it with classic console, you can use it with AI console, and you can use it with the RM mixers. What about auto-tune? Any plugin you can insert it in the channel, you can pop it back in here and you can hear the effects of that insert in real time. Next question. Is it possible to have the sends on its own column like it was in Studio One? That's a really good question. You can return your effects to any channel, and then you have your aux inputs that you can return it. What we did in the Studio One, what I was showing you before, is I sent it to an effect, and then I returned it to the 2-track return actually on the console. That's how we did that. So you can return it on a separate control, so for sure. Let's see, low latency, is that achieved by the mixer as an audio interface or the Mac or PC? is there some other interface involved? The answer to that question is the latency is over the bus, and you can lower the latency on the computer. So the processing of the computer and the latency that you set in your software is going to determine how quickly everything gets processed and sent back to your mixer. So that's determined on the computer and the software, inside of the software. Let's see, one other question. Please explain how to compensate for plugin latency in live settings. Would I just delay my other outputs? Okay, so yes, you do have, let me actually pull this up. Let me sign in here. It logged me out. So in Studio, I can show you how to do this in Studio One. In Studio One, under Preferences, you have these device block sizes, and I have a very high latency set at 1024, which is something you would set it higher if you were mixing and you didn't need to do something in a live scenario. If you would lower the sample size, if you wanted the processing to happen faster, or you want to lower the latency between the send and return. So when you took the signal, brought it into Studio One, processed it, and then returned it on a channel, you would want to lower that as much as possible. Now that the latency is going to be dictated, by the speed and the processing of the computer. So the faster your computer you have, the faster you're going to get it back here, the less latency you're going to have. This is not just for Mac. Somebody mentioned, is it just on your Mac? And it works on Mac or PC. So it's not proprietary to one platform or the other. So, and then the latency works exactly the same. You need to lower the number size to add or put more processing on the computer to get it processed and get it back into your channel quicker. So that's going to lower the latency there. I have another question. Let's see what this one says. What is the best upgrade to improve latency on your computer? CPU or RAM? It really is both, but the RAM, I've noticed a little bit more happening here, but I mean, we're using a multi-core CPU processing, so that helps as well. I mean, really all the way around. You want to have as good a computer as you possibly can either put together, which I totally recommend. You can build a super sweet PC and it can just, launch rockets to the moon. Or you can buy, the maxed out, Mac or whatever it is that, you're comfortable with. But as much, CPU and RAM as you can get. I mean, max it out the best that you can. That's going to give you the best performance. But pretty much anything you buy off the shelf, and don't quote me on this, please, should be able to you should be able to achieve the effects that you want. Most of the guys that are doing this live are just using a laptop. So definitely check out that stuff. Let's see. How do I assign channels for my 1642 and use them for live effects such as flange? Well, as I showed you earlier, let's cancel this. If you go to your start page in Studio One, there are these deals called templates. So when you create song, it opens up this dialog where you have style different styles of templates, different interface templates, or templates for interfaces rather, and then you have a user preset. Under interfaces, you can just scroll down and then click on a 1642 session and create a song. So what that does is it maps all of your inputs and outputs on your interface or your mixer to the inputs and outputs on the tracks that it creates inside of Studio One. So you don't have to go in there and manually do this. It's already done in Studio One for you. So that's how you'd map everything. So you could just go in there and drag in whatever you want, whatever effects you want to put in, grab them out of the column. You want to get your isotope ozone, you want to do trash, whatever you want to do and put it on your channel. You just grab what you want and put it on there. And it's already set up one-to-one inside of the software so that when I hit the firewire button on the channel that I'm trying to affect, I get the effect signal to come right back into the channel of the mixer. So that is the easiest way to do it. Doing it, from scratch, it can be a little more difficult. So definitely I recommend using the templates. Someone said, hi, Justin. Hello back to you. Would you be able to use Studio One to play pre-record material and send a click track to the monitors? Absolutely. It's exactly the same concept. So you can, what's fantastic about using software and plugins live is And like what with what Nothing More is doing, they have a handful of effects tracks happening, and then they have some things that turn off and turn on. Like I believe they use some isotope plugins to distort their voice at certain points in the song. So they play, and then they're playing back some backing tracks in a click as well. And we don't obviously hear that live. That's just going to the artists. But then they have some effects that turn off and turn on throughout the timeline in their computer or in the software. So you absolutely could do that. In addition to being able to do that, if you wanted to, you can play back, do all of those great, interesting things, and you could record simultaneously. So you can get you can do a lot of cool stuff. So I definitely recommend getting out there and seeing what it can do. Let's see. When using the PC to drop effects in Studio One in a live situation, will that override the fat channel on the 32? No. Whatever you're doing DSP processing wise on your mixer, whether it's an RM or a console, whatever's happening on the channel is happening whether you have the input analog coming in like the microphone, or you have the digital return coming in from the computer. So if you have fat channel happening and you don't want it happening in addition to what you're doing inside of the computer, you just need to disengage it or zero out that channel strip. Okay, I think we have some more stuff, but before, they just keep coming in. These are fantastic questions, by the way. We often get questions at PreSonus Live, and they're good questions, but we only get like 2 or 3 really good questions. I'm really excited that so many people are asking these great questions. I'm going to announce a winner at least to 1 second prize before we finish the questions. So let's see. We have Mr. Ryan Mayer. Ryan Mayer, you are the #1 winner of the second prize. So you won the Studio One 3 Professional and iZotope's Ozone 7. So congratulations. Maybe just one more second prize winner. How about Mr. Steve Sawyer? Steve, you are also a winner of Studio One 3 Professional and iZotope Ozone 7. So pretty fantastic prizes right there. I'm going to take a couple more questions and then we'll go back for our last second prize winner, and then we'll talk about our grand prize guy. Let's see. With the RM MIDI out, can this be assigned to send MIDI from backing tracks? I don't exactly understand this question, but I don't believe that what you're trying to do, it will do. If I'm understanding the question correctly, what you would probably want to do in lieu of using MIDI signals to trigger stuff, you can just set up pre-show inside of Studio One or whatever DAW it is that you want to use, because I can't say this enough. Our hardware works with other people's software. Our software works with other people's hardware. And like in the video, Nothing More is using Ableton Live and iZotope to trigger stuff live and to play back backing tracks. We were showing you how to use Studio One to do that and integrate it with the StudioLive console or the RM. And I find it to be easier because it has the templates and it's just an integrated solution. So I would do everything pre-show and just have it mapped out with automation, turning things off and on actually in the DAW itself. I hope that answered the question. Will you guys make more custom plugins, and will it be within the 192, offloaded to the 192? That is a fantastic question, and I love to speculate, so let's just go for that. I think the question is, so everyone knows, we have a new interface out called the Studio 192, and it has some onboard processing, and right now it's fat channel processing like you would have on your RM or your StudioLive. And I think the question is we've recently released some new plugins, and they were wondering if we're going to put those on the Studio 192, and my answer is I hope so. That'd be fantastic. No idea. But I will definitely ask someone who's smarter than me or who knows the product better than me to see if that's something that's going to happen, and I will definitely get back to you about that. Great question, by the way. So let's do this. I'm going to announce the last second prize winner of Studio One 3 Pro and iZotope Ozone 7, and then we're going to announce our grand prize winner. Once again, I want to let you know that this amazing PreSonus Live was brought to you by iZotope and by Zounds. Thanks to guys and gals over there for helping us out with this. This has been pretty cool for us. So, our last second prize winner is Brendan Emmanuel. You are the last or the third second prize winner of Studio One Pro 3 and Isotope Ozone 7. And the grand prize winner, the person winning the CS18 control surface, the StudioLive RM16 AI, Studio One 3 Pro, Isotope Ozone 7, Alloy 2, and $100 Zounds gift certificate is Mr. Bart Guthrie. Congratulations, Bart. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Special thanks to Nothing More. Make sure you get out there and download this new song. It's available right now on iTunes, and we'll have it up on YouTube so you can watch the video again. Special thanks to those guys. We really appreciate what they're doing out there for us. And if you have any other questions or we didn't get to your question, definitely check us out at education@PreSonus.com. Again, thanks to Zounds and Isotope for sponsoring this PreSonus Live. Check us out next time. We'll see you then.